Hey everybody, Prepper Nurse 1 here. April 1st, 2019, April Fool's Day. So I was talking in my live chat last night and I wanted to do a follow-up about the devastation that's continuing to go on in the Midwest, okay? So I got some information that I wrote down, so I didn't want to... And this is just some of the information, guys. I'm not even going to give you all of it, but I'm just going to give you an idea of how truly bad the situation is. I'm not going to turn that way because I'll be blinded by the sun. It's actually about 36 degrees here today at the homestead. We actually had snow on the ground this morning because it snowed last night. So, but that melted off pretty quickly once the sun came out, so it wasn't too bad. But definitely a chilly day. The rest of the week is actually looking better. But we're getting good power in on the solar panels today, so I can't complain at all. Okay, so what we're going to talk about, a couple different things, okay? Now the first thing I wanted to talk about, which I think is really, really important. So in the United States, about 13 million people use wells for their water. I'm one of them. I have my own well, and we use that for drinking, washing, and cooking. Okay, so in the Midwest, where all this flooding and everything has gone on, over 1 million wells are going to be affected from this flooding, and it's going to be if I can pull this up here. It's basically you're looking at. I just want to find this information, what I wanted to say here. So basically the flooding is going to be causing a lot of E. coli and also other contaminants, pollutants from industrial waste and stuff like that. You're talking the E. coli is going to be from waste treatment plants and stuff like that. That's all going to get into these wells. And so these wells, you're talking about 1 million wells in this area that are going to have to be cleaned out, retested, after the flooding stops to make sure that they're okay to be able to have that as drinking water again. So think about that, just the cost of that alone. So let's just think about that for a minute, okay? So anyway, you're talking about the flooding is essentially is 300 counties across 10 states. And I'm going to read off these 10 states so you kind of get an idea. Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, South Dakota, and Wisconsin. Okay, and the two states that actually have been hit the worst are Iowa and Nebraska. All right. Now the other thing that a lot of people aren't thinking about is 13% of the ethanol production right now is offline because of the flooding. So I wanted to talk a little bit. Let's see. So one of the things that really truly need to be addressed right now, in my opinion, okay, you have at least 62 levees that have been breached or overtopped because of the flooding. So you're having issues, obviously, with all these different levees. I think they were saying it's like 350 miles of levees that are affected, okay? So you're talking about a tremendous amount of an area that's basically right now a Swiss cheese thing. And so what happens when more flooding and more rain is predicted right now in that area? So they're going to have more issues in that area because of the flooding. So, you know, it's not going to get better. It's going to only get worse. They're saying that the flooding can continue through the rest of the spring, that a lot of these people are not going to be able to get their crops planted and stuff like that. So one of the things I did want to... So basically, in my opinion, one of the things that really truly needs to be addressed when this all settles out is these levees, and they need to get... Safety is going to be a huge thing because it affects not only you know, all the people, but their farmland, their livelihood, and that food, guys, feeds this country. That food, you know, the corn production and stuff like that, that is, you know, for ethanol production, and again, for grain, for cows, and all that type of stuff. So I wanted to address a couple of different things here. So we're going to talk about Nebraska for a second. We're just going to talk about that, just that one state, okay? It's the third largest producer of corn in the country. It's the second largest in ethanol. It's the second largest in cow and calf production. And it's the first for cattle on feed. So right now, and it's like they're saying that they're estimated $400 million of losses just from cattle alone in Nebraska. And so, I mean, that's crazy. There was one farm, okay, here's another example. One farm alone lost 700 hogs that were drowned due to the flooding in Nebraska. Now, there's another thing in Iowa. There's an area that has 6 facilities that hold 3,000 pigs each, and they haven't even been able to get in there to check on them to see if those pigs are alive. So think about that number of pigs alone in that one facility where they have 6 different buildings that are holding that, okay? They're basically saying that 75 to 80% of the stored crops have been destroyed by the flooding in like Iowa and Nebraska. I mean, we're talking crazy, crazy numbers, guys. And I didn't really get into all the numbers as far as, you know, the amount of livestock that has been lost, okay? I didn't even get into all of that because it's so much. So we're talking, you know, cows, pigs, you know, chickens, other livestock that people have. So you have the loss of life from that. So we're talking, I think they said in Iowa alone, they're estimating the losses at $1.6 billion for everything. You know, destroyed cropland. They might not even get crops in the ground this year. And that does affect the entire country, guys. So you're talking about a 10-state area to one degree or another is definitely going to be affected from this flooding. You're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars just to fix these levees alone, you know, to get them squared away. And, you know, that needs to be a priority because the Midwest, guys, they don't call it the grain basket for nothing. This is where the majority of our food production, you know, the last time that I looked, I think they said that it was like 38% of the food production, you know, is in that area, you know, of the country that is being affected. So that's a pretty significant amount, you know, of food that's being affected. And again, the loss of livestock. So now we have all this livestock that are dead, that are rotting in this water, which again, that's going to affect these different wells and stuff like that too. I mean, it's just it's a very, very devastating situation, and I just didn't want to make one video on it and then basically move on and forget it and go to the latest and greatest thing, because this is something that's going to have long-reaching effects. First of all, they're saying that almost half of the farmers may not even be able to recover from this one. So, you know, that alone is pretty devastating. Think about these families. I mean, this is their livelihood. And, you know, yeah, okay, so they farm on a floodplain, but it's the best place to do these things. But they are relying on protection, you know, and we're having, obviously, record storms and the crazy weather. And so that obviously affects everything as well. And of course, they're going to call it, you know, it used to be global warming, now it's climate change, because I had to change the word because things are getting colder, not warmer. But these storms and stuff like that, guys, it's getting crazy. And it's going to affect prices of everything across the board. So you really need to be paying attention to that. I mean, again, when I talked in the first video I did on this topic, I said, you know, now is the time to load up on food. I mean, and I meant it, because it's like, very scary stuff, guys. Really, really scary stuff. And it's definitely something that's going to be affecting the country for a while. You know, they're talking that it's going to affect things into next year, because like now a lot of them aren't even going to be able to get crops in the ground this year. You know, and again, let's say we have an overly wet spring. Well, you've already got a ground that is completely saturated out there that really can't hold any more water. Where's that water going to go? So, you know, you're talking about a lot of devastation. And like I said, my heart goes out to them. I did see something that was really, you know, heartwarming. There was a caravan headed out that way from one of the other states, and I can't remember which one it was, to be honest with you, where they were, you know, bringing in hay and supplies and fencing and stuff like that to help these guys out. But now I want to talk about, too, it's like in this area, you're talking about, you know, all these roads that are covered have been damaged, all these bridges that have been damaged. So you're talking about a huge area of the country that has to basically rebuild everything. And so, I mean, again, you know, I've talked about this stuff, and I really think it's important. And this is a great example of why. Infrastructure of our country, guys, that's what we need to be focusing on. The amount of jobs that can be created would be great. And again, people working hard, making a decent living, they're going to put that money back into the economy, and it's going to be a win-win situation. You make your country safe, which we need to do. We need to make sure that these farmlands are going to be safe. And I don't care if we have to make these levees twice the height. I don't care how much it would cost. It needs to be addressed, and it needs to be taken care of, because when you're talking about a part of the country that produces so much food for the country, you know, and also cows and pigs and chickens and everything else, you know. It's you're talking about it's a very, very decimating, you know, situation that's going to impact everybody. You know, it's going to impact everybody across the country, and I think a lot of people, because they go with the mindset of out of sight, out of mind. So, you know, they don't want to, you know, think about the fact, you know, that these things are going on. But very, very scary stuff. I definitely want to hear your guys' feedback. I want to hear what you have to say about this, because I think, like I said, this is a situation that is going to have long-reaching effects. It's going to affect these farmers, that's for sure. I heard different things that some of these insurance companies weren't wanting to pay. You know, of course they don't want to pay. You know, that's a standard thing with insurance companies. They'll take your money for sure, but then they don't want to pay you out in the end. But hopefully that gets worked out. These farmers get the relief that they need to be able to rebuild if that's what they want to do. But if they're going to rebuild, guys, we need to make sure that these areas are safe for them to have their farms so they can produce the crops and produce the livestock that we need that feed us across the country. You know, so like I said, it's like, you know, when the situation with the wells, that kind of struck home, because I have a well. So, you know, that's how you know, we get our water, you know. So that's it's definitely something that is going to affect a lot of different things. So very, very sad situation, very, very scary situation of how fragile the system really truly is. And you know, heaven forbid the next disaster that comes up, you know, and people like lose sight of what's happening out in the Midwest right now. You know, when you're talking about something that's affecting 10 different states, and obviously Iowa and Nebraska are getting hit the worst. And you know, it's just it's tough, guys. It's tough to swallow, you know. But I wanted to keep it in the forefront. I wanted to bring it up again. And like I said, I talked a little bit about it yesterday in my live chat. But I mean, I didn't even get into all the livestock losses. I mean, the livestock losses, you know, are just incredible. And again, those animals that, you know, they're all now dead. And like, let's say those 6 facilities with 3,000 pigs in each one, you're talking about 18,000 pigs. Let's say they're all gone, because there's nobody there feeding them. There's nobody there to check and see what's going on. So now you've got these dead animals rotting in the water. You know, what's going on with all of that? So, you know, that's putting a lot of pollutants in the water and stuff like that as well. So it's just a crazy, crazy situation. You know, and it's you know, very, very sad, to be honest with you. So I wanted to bring it up because I think it's important. I think we need to keep it in the forefront. We need to prepare accordingly, you know, for that. Grains, I mean, the price of corn and all that type of stuff, that's all going to go up. Your wheat, all that type of stuff, all that's going to go up in price, okay? You're talking soybeans is another one that's a big producer out in that area. So there's a lot of stuff, guys, that are going to be more expensive, and you need to think about that. And like I said, with the ethanol production, like right now, 13% of the ethanol production in this country is offline. That is going to affect things. Again, recently, and I just talked about this, the gas prices have jumped up 15 cents a gallon probably in the last 2 weeks here in New York, where I'm at. And so, you know, that's something to think about. You know, everything is going to cost more, and it continues to happen like that. Nothing is going to change as far as that goes. So please be safe. To all my fellow brothers and sisters out there in the Midwest that are dealing with this right now, I want you to know you're in my thoughts, and you know, I hope things work out, and I hope you get the support that you need, and I hope these insurance companies do what they're supposed to do to take care of this situation. So. You know, hang in there, guys, and that's all we can do. And hopefully, you know, you guys can recover from this, and you know, and go from there. So, anyway, I guess that's going to be it for right now. I wanted to, you know, like I said, I just wanted to bring this up. I thought it was important, and so that is that. So anyway, I'm going to cut this video off because the time is running on here quite a bit. But I wanted to share this information with you guys because I think it's important. Remember, guys, we are all in this together. It's important to remember, and so what happens in one area definitely affects other people. Remember also, hug and kiss the ones you love. Tell them every single day. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. We never know what's going to happen. And remember, guys, STD. It's one step at a time, one thing at a time, and one day at a time. Whatever you're trying to do, whatever you're trying to accomplish, you can do it. The only one that's going to stop you from doing it is yourself. The only one that's going to stop you is you. So stay focused, stay positive. Don't listen to the negativity, and you should be great. Okay? I will talk to you all tomorrow. Have a great day. Prepper Nurse 1, out for now.